You state your name and your position in Make Us Visible.
Absolutely. My name is Mimi Chan, and I am the State Director for Make Us Visible Florida.
Okay, perfect. So for people who are not aware of the organization, can you give us a little lowdown on what it is?
Sure. Make Us Visible Florida is actually part of a nationwide coalition of just comprised of students, parents, teachers, neighbors that are really passionate about the inclusion of AAPI history in our K-12 curriculum. We actually also see it as a preventative solution to all of the anti-Asian violence that's been happening around the country for the last several years. So really, we're all just a bunch of volunteers. So as the director, I'm just the directing volunteer, have you? And yeah, it's just been quite a journey over the last few years. I started working with Make Us Visible almost 3 years ago now.
Okay. And is that when the whole coalition formed, or the one in Florida particularly?
Yeah, so the one in Florida was pretty much right after the Atlanta spa shooting. So what happened was I essentially I was very frustrated after the kind of, the apex of all of the things that we have been seeing over the past year, several months. And then after that Atlanta spa shooting, I was just really frustrated and thought something needed to change. So I started a petition on change.org for AAPI history inclusion in our education here in Florida, because upon my research, it really was always pointing to education as the number one preventative solution. It's the number one long-term solution that's really going to curb a lot of the issues that we're seeing. And so when I started that, I started to also research, how can I achieve this goal? I don't know anything about legislation. I've never written a bill before, anything like that. And we actually kind of got that ball rolling when I found and got connected to the coalition of Make Us Visible as a national team.
Awesome. And so it deals with a lot of legislation. Do you guys deal with anything else outside of that, or it all kind of ties together?
Yeah, so there's, several different pillars of I'll reset. There's
Yeah.
several different pillars of Make Us Visible, and it's very much community and education, and really those two things are tied in, right? And so our community and our education side kind of work hand in hand. And the legislative side is really just kind of getting that law in place so that we can ensure that this is a mandatory requirement for our state. And Make Us Visible also works with educators as well as Asian American Education Project, which has been implementing curriculum in a few of the states already. So we also are very, very much involved in, hopefully working hand in hand with the Department of Education and the school boards and teachers to help implement the education once this bill gets passed.
Sure. And then can you talk about that AAPI bill that you're referencing for Florida?
Absolutely. So this is my second year with the bill. So the first year, our bill actually died in committee. So we were moving along in the Senate and we were unable to be heard in the House. This year, our bill has taken a very, very different direction. We've worked really, really hard with grassroots on the ground, basically going up to Tallahassee, talking to legislators. And we had two of our bills written in the House and the Senate side with lead sponsors. And we were able to kind of pretty much push through our committees on the House side, whereas on the Senate side, we were the reverse of last year. We were only able to get through one of our committees for time. But because our bill and the language of the bill was so important, and because we had so many sponsors and co-sponsors and supporters of this bill, we had over, I believe, 55, I think, co-sponsors on the House side and 15 on the Senate side. So this is a widely supported bill. Every committee, we got unanimous support. We just passed through the House floor last week with unanimous support. So everybody's very supportive. Because of that, our language was added to the education bills, HB 1537 and SB 1430. So our bill has taken on a new quote unquote number, but really what's important is that the language of our bill has been included. And so we are waiting to get through that final hurdle on the Senate side of things. But this bill is looking very, very positive, and we're very excited that this year it looks like, what we've been working for the past 2 years is actually going to come to fruition.
That's awesome. And also hearing that you did so much grassroots efforts and you went to the Capitol, I feel like sometimes, people seeing you and hearing you like where the bill is being voted on makes all the difference.
It really does. And I'll be honest, that has made all of the difference. We have an amazing, small but mighty team of volunteers that have been doing community outreach across the state. And with that, this is where the grassroots happens, right? So we may not have direct volunteers, but because our volunteers have reached out to organizations, not just AAPI organizations, just any organization that really believes in the power of education, and that AAPI history has a place there. It has been super instrumental in just kind of getting the word out, letting people call their legislators and helping reinforce the work that we're doing. But I definitely walked those Tallahassee halls in the Capitol a lot more this year than I ever thought I would, but it really has made an impact. The legislators have been so enthusiastic and really willing to listen to why this is important, why it's important now, and why this needs to be, made into law as soon as possible.
Sure. And can you elaborate on that? Why is this AAPI bill important?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the biggest things that causes anti-Asian hate is ignorance, right? So ignorance causes hate, and really that perpetual foreigner syndrome. So, growing up, if you speak to any, Asian American, they will share very similar stories of feeling like other, or feeling like they didn't belong, or making, people making them feel like they didn't belong. Oftentimes I would get asked if I was from another country, or where was I from, or, people making fun of your food or your name. And it's just one of the things that I really believe, that if we can educate our youth and educate everybody on the civic contributions of Asian Americans, we can be seen as part of American history. We can be seen as Americans, because Asian American history is American history. And so one of the things that we're hoping is that by, having this curriculum in the K-12 system, other children, not just Asian Americans, who can see themselves represented in history, but other kids can also learn about the civic contributions of Asian Americans and realize that we are not, foreigners. Many of us are first generation Americans or second generation Americans and have been here a very long time. So I think just kind of understanding that we're very much woven into the fabric of this country, and that we also helped establish so much. I mean, one of the things that I've learned along this process is that I knew nothing about Asian American history. I didn't get to learn it growing up here. I was, very Florida educated. I went to elementary all the way through college here in Florida, and I didn't, very sadly and embarrassingly, didn't know very much about Asian American history. And as I've gone through this process, I've started to learn such amazing facts that really would have made me feel a lot more proud to be Asian American growing up. And so we're hoping by implementing this will also help that long-term solution, so that we aren't seen as foreigners, and there will be a lot less hate and violence, and, a lot of the crimes that we've been seeing.
Yeah. That all makes perfect sense. And did you grow up in Orange County or somewhere else in Florida?
Yep, right here in Orange County, actually. So my parents moved us here from Boston because it was just very, very cold. But also my father is really instrumental, and my mother, to establish the Wallam Kung Fu Temple here in Orlando, Florida. We're the first to start the Lunar New Year celebrations. So because of my connectivity with the community over all of these years, we were established since 1980. So since that very long time, we've been,
that's awesome.
yeah, we've been working with Orange County, but across the state, really, doing the lion and dragon celebrations, and just kind of raising awareness, but constantly educating our community. So because that's always kind of been a part of my upbringing and who I am, I think it was kind of natural that I ended up kind of doing this work. But this was all honestly very surprising for me. I've never, been involved in legislation, and it's been very eye-opening to understand. But yeah, so I was educated here, did not learn anything about Asian American, history or contributions. And so this is definitely something that I know is missing from my education, and hopefully that'll be, no longer the case for our future generations.
Yeah. And I know, I think you mentioned in the text you teach classes. So what do you do for day to day?
Yeah, so my day-to-day job is exactly that. So I am in the family business. I teach Kung Fu and Tai Chi at the Wallam Temple in Orlando, Florida. And so I am really grateful to be a teacher of sorts. I consider myself an educator. While I'm not in the classrooms, I definitely love to work hand in hand with our school educators, so that we can help, build confidence and respect and discipline, and, give our youth all of these tools that they really need to survive in the day-to-day. So, but yeah, my day-to-day job is a Kung Fu teacher. And so you can find me at the Wallam Temple on any given day, but on the side as a passion project, I've been the director for Make Us Visible Florida, and it's been very rewarding. It's been a lot of hard work, but it's definitely worked hand in hand with what I do, on a daily basis anyway, which is, hopefully providing more for, our future and for, students on a daily basis.
Sure. Yeah, they're both rooted in education in some way, for sure.
Absolutely.
And then how can people get involved or volunteer if they want to at Make Us Visible?
Yes, we absolutely love volunteers. And, one of the things that as advocacy and advocates, people get very worried about that word volunteer, that it means you're committing for several hours. And honestly, we have students who are in middle school that say, hey, I have exams for the next 2 months. I can't help out, but I'll send an email here and there. And that's all it takes is just one email, or, making one social media post, or just kind of getting involved in whatever bite-sized way that means for you. So we do encourage volunteers to join us, even though we're coming towards the end of our legislative session. There's still so much more work to be done. It's going to take a long time to implement the curriculum. So there's a lot that, you can contribute to. If this is something you're passionate about, you can follow us at Make Us Visible Florida on Instagram and Facebook. You can follow me at Sifu Mimi Chan, and we're always giving you updates on, what's next with Make Us Visible Florida. But we absolutely love volunteers. You can also email us at makeusvisibleFlorida@gmail.com. So yeah, anybody who wants to help out, this is just a team of volunteers, and, we'd love to have you.
That's awesome. And tangential, but since you mentioned it, how can people take Kung Fu classes if they want to?
Absolutely. So we are on Goldenrod Road, and we are the Wallam Kung Fu Temple. You can go to WAHLUM Wallam.com to see our schedule. Come by and visit us. We're actually the first traditional Kung Fu temple in the United States. So it's also a very historical site. We're really, really proud of that. And in all honesty, working on this legislation with our lead rep, Placencia, she actually was a student there at one time. And so that's why working together has been so meaningful. And she actually talked about it on the House floor last week on, seeing that temple being built there and just kind of being a part of the community and how this is so essential. So it all kind of comes together in the end. But yeah, you can absolutely come visit us at wallam.com.
Awesome. And I'm not sure if you would know, but do you have a timeline on when the Senate's supposed to be voting on the bill?
Yeah, we're hoping that will be this week, being that the session ends in 3 days.
Sure, hopefully.
it needs to be before Friday. So by Friday, we'll know that the bills will pass through the House and the Senate. We're expecting it to be unanimous again. Now that we are, grouped in and amended to another bill, it's not just our language that's there, but again, we've already kind of received all of that support and encouragement from the legislators. We know that this language is very positive, and that the legislators are for it. But we just, it's a formality, but a lot can happen in the next 3 days of legislative session. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. And then once it does hopefully pass to the Senate floor, and then the House floor is good to go, then we wait for the governor to sign the bill.
Awesome. Well, perfect. Those were all the questions I had about that. Do you have anything else you want to add about Make Us Visible or the AAPI bill?
No, again, you can follow us at Make Us Visible Florida on Instagram and Facebook, and just stay tuned. Even if we get this bill passed, there's still a lot of work to be done. Feel free to come out and volunteer, be involved. This has been a real passion project of mine, but we'd love to get more people, involved in any way that you would feel comfortable. So thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today, Samantha. I really appreciate it, and your interest in, what we're doing. A lot of times, grassroots efforts like these get overlooked because there's always something negative and bigger going on in the news. But I think it's really positive that Florida has come together to do something so special. And when I was talking to legislators, I think I was told less than 3% of bills were passed this session. And that's very common. That usually it's under 3%. And so the fact that this is because the community want this is a community bill, is really, really meaningful. And I think it's definitely something should be celebrated, especially during AAPI Heritage Month. So it's a really special time for us. And I'm really excited to see this happen, especially during this month of May.